We are continuing with our mini-series looking at all 30 athletes competing at this year's World's Strongest Man, where we take a look into their story so far, how we think they'll do on the events, and how we rate their overall chances. Today's episode is an exciting one. It's the Georgian Bull, Konstantine Janashia.
Konstantine Janashia, the man with the crazy traps, he first came onto the international strongman scene way back in 2011, and considering he's only 31 years old now, he's been around for a long time. He did his first Giants Live in 2014, which was Giants Live Hungary, where he placed 5th, and since then he's been a regular on the international strongman scene. He's competed in 5 World's Strongest Mans, and he has made the final every single time he's turned up. He won his group on 3 occasions and got through on the stones twice. And his best performance at World's Strongest Man so far is 4th in 2016. So in 2019, the World's Strongest Man final in Bradenton, he suffered quite a nasty injury, didn't he? I think it was on the dumbbell press. He tore his tricep.
And when we first saw him come back, I think we first saw him at WS in Bahrain.
Yeah.
He didn't look like the same athlete.
No.
A couple of months later, though, we saw him compete in the Siberian Power Show, and he looked back to his best, taking the win in that event, alongside some pretty tough competition as well. Janashia is one of the absolute superstars of strongman. He's been consistently performing for a number of years now. Twice, I believe he's been second at Giants Live competitions. He's been on a number of international podiums. And when it comes to Worlds, that seems to be where he absolutely peaks.
Yeah.
Every single time he's competed, he's made the final. Very, very few athletes can say that.
Not even Brian and Zadrunas can say that.
No, those two have not made the final every time. There is a handful of guys, and Janashia is one of them.
So without further ado, let's get into the events.
Okay, as we've said, Konstantine has never not made the final of World's Strongest Man. So obviously he's an athlete we are looking that should be trying to make the final. So we're going to go through a lot of the events. So let's delve deep. First event, loading. So Konstantine Janashia has done loading many times in competition. 3 times in the heat stages of World's Strongest Man, he's had a loading type event. Twice he's come second, and once he won. That is a great track record to go off. And you have to expect the same again. He's got to come in with that kind of confidence that he'll have from those performances. Hopefully his training is going really well, and he feels confident when it comes to a loading event that he can get big points and start the competition well.
So you just said hopefully his training's going well. Well, very recently he posted a deadlift video on Instagram saying it was his first deadlift session after a back injury.
Yeah, he's been suffering with back issues ever since Europe's Strongest Man, actually. A little bit before then, I was talking to him at Europe's, and he said he's not feeling his best when it comes to his back. He's been trying to do a lot of things to rehab it. He posted up a video of him deadlifting 360 kilos without a belt. And then he posted up a video of him lifting 210 kilo Atlas stones. So I'd like to think his back's okay now.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be a little bit of confidence issues because he wouldn't have been able to prep as well as he'd like, but his deadlift is a natural strength, and it's an event he's got great pedigree in. Deadlifting, he always gets big points. So I think when it comes to Worlds, as long as the body holds out, he'll dig deep, and as long as he's been training around that, keeping the legs strong, upper back strong, I think he'll be okay, and he'll still get good points from the deadlift in the heats.
Next then we have the car walk.
Yeah, car walk and super yoke type events, actually not his best events. So we looked at the first 2 events of the heats. I think he can get a great start. This is an event where he may drop some points. Notoriously in competition, he's around mid-table, sometimes lower half of the competition. So he needs to bring that up depending on who's in his group.
Yeah.
But This could be a potential chance for other athletes to squeeze in there. He would much prefer this to be a farmer's walk or a frame carry. He's very, very good at those. For some reason, not quite as good when it's carrying the weight on his shoulders. Definitely a chance for some of the other guys to sneak in here and get some points back.
Then we've got the wrecking ball hold, which is a grip test.
Grip type event. We don't know yet whether it's side handles or out in front. It doesn't really matter. It comes down to grip strength. And this is a weird one. He's very, very good at farmer's walk type events. His grip normally holds out really well on those. He's a little bit mixed in terms of results when it comes to a Hercules hold. He's done the Giants Live Hercules hold, and he pretty much placed like lower end of the table. He was 7th out of, I believe, 9 or 10 athletes. That was back in 2019 though. His most recent performance on a Hercules hold was at the Siberian Power Show, where he placed 2nd. And he has big hands. He's great at farmer's walk. So sometimes with the Hercules hold, you have the, I can tell you from experience, if you don't get the setup right, sometimes it can pull you out and you can have the odd bad performance. I was notoriously very, very good at a Hercules hold, but there are a few times where I just didn't quite get it right, didn't get my thumb in the right position, didn't get all the tension out of the chains or whatever it might be, and you suddenly get it to pull, a hand opens up quickly, and you perform badly. So notoriously his grip's good. I think as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, he can score big points on a grip event.
Next is the log lift for reps, around about 150 kilos. And as someone with a max log of over 200 kilos, surely this should be a decent event for Janashia.
Yeah, he's got good history on the log lift. He has had some up and down performances when it comes to log. Obviously, coming back from tricep surgery, the confidence wouldn't have been there straight away, but we've seen better performances as time's gone on, and he looks to be back to his best again. He's done log at World's Strongest Man a number of times, placed very well, both in the heats and in the final. Overhead is a strong event for him. As you said, a 202.5 kilo max log. That is world class. I mean, we all talk about the likes of Luke Stoltman and Graham Hicks and Ian Bibby, but trust me, if you're lifting over 200 kilos and you're very good at all these other events as well, you are world class in log lifting. If he's in that kind of shape, he's going to score points. So finally, the stones.
Yes.
He's one of those athletes that is a little up and down when it comes to stones, but every time he's had to win the stones to get to the final, he's managed to do it. I think twice he's been in the situation where he's had to win a stone off with someone else, and he's got that confidence that he believes he's getting to the final. It's really hard to predict where I think he'll come in the groups.
Yeah.
But I do genuinely believe the confidence that he has, the great all-round ability. There's no... I mean, we spoke about the car walk being a potential weakness, but we're talking slight.
Yeah, he might come like 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, it's going to take... I mean, it would take a lot of good guys to be in that group, the same group, to all beat him on an event like that. So I don't see him dropping many points anywhere. So he could well be a winner of a group. He's won his group 3 times, I think you mentioned earlier. He's just great all round, and he's a threat. No one ever talks about Janashia as one of the big names. But when you look at his results, he's one of those guys that's done extremely well. Not yet... I mean, he won the Siberian Power Show.
Yeah.
Not really won any of the big major competitions.
No.
I thought he might have a chance at Europe's recently. I think if he's in good shape, he's going to be a threat, definitely. So I do expect him to be in the final. So with that being said, we need to look at some of the final events.
So the first event being the Kanak medley, and Kanak is exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Yeah, it's a weird word, isn't it?
It is, but I was sent the phonetic description.
So the Kanak boxes, they're tool boxes that the guys will have to carry and load, and then they're straight into the super yoke as fast as they can down the course. He's quick. We've mentioned before he's good at loading and stuff. The super yoke, a little bit slower. There are a lot of guys I expect to get to the final that can beat him, but I again don't expect him to come last by any means on this type of event as well.
Mid-pack, maybe.
Yeah, mid to lower end. I think he's not going to beat the really good guys on this event, but he'll pick up a few points.
Deadlift for reps. We've already spoken about his deadlift.
The deadlift for reps is so hard to pick when it comes to the final because you're going to have so many good, strong deadlifters, but you're also going to have a lot of battered strongmen.
Yeah.
And I think the guys that can get through in first place have a big advantage. If you don't have to go in and do that stone off, it saves your back, it saves your energy. So that could be a factor for Janashia. If he goes in first, he'll be fresher on the deadlift. Obviously, we've got the little issue of what's his training been like. It hasn't been the best when it comes to deadlift. Could affect him a little bit in conditioning I said I think he'll do all right in the heats. He may be fatigued by this point, and the lack of training in the deadlift specifically could affect his endurance. So that is a factor. But based on performance in the deadlift in the past, it's a big scoring point for him.
The next one I think is a little bit tricky with Janashia. It's the Flintstone lift for max, which can be from the front or behind. Yes, and still doing my hair.
Do you know the one big advantage he has?
Go on.
He is very, very close friends to Laurence Shahlaei, who is the best Olympic lifter on the planet, potentially the best we've ever seen. I'd love to see this guy in World's Strongest Man. He's just ridiculously strong. Now, being friends with someone like that, he actually trains. They train together sometimes. Can Lasha teach Konstantine how to do a behind the neck jerk? If he can, and you've got that experience around you and that kind of power and you see it all the time, if he trains that movement regularly, could be a big event for him. He's not posting anything about it.
No.
I've seen no videos at all, but I know he trains with the Georgian weightlifters.
Yeah.
So that could be exciting. I don't know if that's going to be the case. It might be the case that his mobility is terrible and he can't get into that position. He'd prefer a log. But there's that element that could come into play, and I think being around those type of lifters has to be some kind of advantage.
Next, an event I'm really looking forward to is the bus pull.
Everyone loves a vehicle pull at World's Strongest Man, whether it's a bus, a truck, a fire engine, an aeroplane, it's all good. And looking at the size of this man, he's a big, powerful man. You expect him to be a good truck puller. He's done well in truck pulls before World's Strongest Man. I think an event he can score well on.
Then we have power stairs, an event he's won before at the Siberian Power Show.
Yeah, he has. And he's also placed lower as well. I mean, he's had 3 performances that I can find on power stairs. Winning in the Siberian Power Show, 6th place at Europe's most recently, but I will say the Europe's Strongest Man one was a little bit lighter. I think the World's Strongest Man one is going to be heavier. I think his frame is good for this type of event. He's obviously got the strong back, the ridiculous traps, long legs as well, which helps on an event like this. It's never good for the shorter athletes that have big chunky legs because it just presses into your quads. Although he's a bigger guy, his legs aren't humongous. No. So I think having his back strength, his reasonable grip strength, and obviously that height that he's got, people forget how tall Janashia is. He's a very, very big man. I think this is going to be a good event for him. And I expect World's Strongest Man power stairs to be quite tough and challenging. So I think the bigger, taller, big deadlifters, big trapped athletes are going to score big points on this type of event.
Big trapped. Then finally we have the Atlas Stones. With a little twist this year, we are returning to the Atlas Stones of yesteryear when the strongmen would run them in a little bit.
Yeah, just going to make the athletes work a little bit harder. Now, interestingly, when you look at his stone performance, he has some very good stone performances, but at World's Strongest Man, particularly in the final, where he's been 5 times and 5 times he's had to do the stones, the best he's ever placed is only 6th. I would have expected a little bit better, but one thing with Janashia, he does have a tendency to start to fatigue towards the end of a competition. His conditioning isn't the best, and it's been a factor when you look into the data that's there. He's placed 6th, 7th twice, 9th and 10th. Okay. They are his performances on Atlas Stones. So it may be a factor of he's good enough, but when it gets to that, that point of the competition where everyone's feeling it, they've been through the events of the heats, they've been through the events of the final, they're all battered, he starts to fatigue and underperform.
So how do we think Janashia is going to do overall?
Janashia is always a threat. He's too good not to be. He's made the final of World's Strongest Man 5 times. I've probably said that way too many times in this video. We'll put a counter up. Yeah. But the fact is, he performs well. He's a consistent performer. I don't see him as a podium finisher. I think there's a couple of events in the final where other guys are just better. We've got some incredible young athletes that just seem to be improving all the time. And Janashia has had injury issues and a little bit of maybe competition rust when it comes to... I expected more from him at Europe's, and he slightly underperformed there. Has he had enough time to really bring up those weaknesses that... Maybe not weaknesses, I guess just sharpness. He didn't look as sharp as he needed to be to win that title, and that was an amazing set of events for him. I think the final events are good for him, but you've got bigger, stiffer competition. Everyone at World's Strongest Man is going to come in form. I think Janashia is going to be a finalist. I think somewhere between 8th to 5th place. Do you concur?
Yeah.
You don't have to concur.
No, I do. No, I agree with you. I think top 5 would be a big ask when you consider who he's up against and their strengths.
I just think, looking at the lineup, looking at the events, I think there's a few guys that will just be a little bit better than Janashia this year.
So there you have it, Konstantine Janashia. We are looking forward to watching him at World's Strongest Man this year. Hopefully easily glide into the finals for his 6th final.
I don't think there's any easily gliding in this year. The groups are going to be stacked. I'm so excited to see what the groups will be. I'll probably change all my mind then once we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Konstantine Janashia. He's a great athlete. If you don't know much about him, we hope this video has helped. He's done exceptionally well at World's Strongest Man before.
Don't forget, guys, we are posting 2 of these videos every single day in the run-up to World's Strongest Man. So make sure you've got the little bell switched on so you don't miss an episode.